Showbiz TV.
Hey, this is a tot tenant totally treating you to your tentative tea time, tantamounting to total joy. Welcome, dear viewers, to Let's Talk Creatives. My name is Matthias.K. Mulumba, aka Matt.K, and I am your host. As usual, this is yet another episode where we bring to you everything creativity, everything in creatives, and expedite on the processes and talk. I have conversations on everything in the creative spaces. So, and I'm not alone in the studio as always. Praise God. I am happy to talk about the spaces in the creativity. And today we're going to be talking about comedy. Yes, we're going to be talking about comedy in the Christian circles. And where did it come from? In our golden nugget, we'll see later on in the second segment. How is it? How is it thriving? Where is the landscape? And how far does this horizon expand? And I am with a very amazing man of God. I'm here with in studio. You're welcome, sir.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Yes, and we'll take this time to introduce you. Kindly introduce yourself to the audience and let them know.
Well, thank you so much, the viewer, for choosing to watch this show. My name is Kenneth Chimuli, also known as Pablo. I am a journalist by profession, a comedian by occupation, a Rotarian by vocation, and a child of God by His grace. And yeah, pretty much that's how I prefer to summarize it.
You know, at first, when I first heard about your name, Pablo, I thought of the Escobar.
I'll prefer the Picasso, the fine artist.
Oh yes, yes. You're welcome to the show, Mr. Pablo.
Thank you so much.
So we want to get into this creative of comedy.
Absolutely.
Tell us, what was the starting line for you like?
That's a very good question. I remember when I dived into the space of comedy, it wasn't intentional, I should say, because I graduated from university as a journalist, and I had started freelancing with the Daily Monitor as a reporter.
Which year was that?
That was 2003.
Oh,
yeah,
yesterday.
So, yeah, 2003.
Yeah.
So while I'm there, because I had a history, I'd been to Namasagali, so they felt that I could report on theater and art, because stereotypically Namasagali was a space for art. And so I used to report plays, dramas, go to different theaters, Pride Theater, go to National Theater, and that was pretty much where the stories were in terms of art. And so in 2003, I remember very well, it was September, Philip Luswata, Kwezi Kaganda, and Lugaya Julius.
Yes.
We used to sit in the musicians club by then, and these guys would come and sit and tell stories of their lives, and we were privileged to meet the legends who are, most of them are passed on now, the likes of late Jimmy Katumba, Eli Wamala, Eko Dele. So they used to come and sit there and tell us stories and reminisce how they started their music, and then their escapades as well.
Oh, yes.
And so Phil, Kwezi, Lugaya said, why don't we put these stories on stage? I mean, why are we selfish? Why should we just bury them in this room? And so they decide to start a comedy outfit. Comedy outfit. And so I go and tell Elizabeth Kamel, who was the editor of the entertainment space at the time. I tell her about these guys who are going to start a comedy outfit. I didn't know much about it. And she said, all right, you know, it's called the carrot or the hook. Okay. Where is the story? We need the story. That's not the story. But so
the punchline.
She tells me, you know what, follow the story, grow with it, look for the hook. And in the process of looking for the hook, I get hooked up. Because I like the process, how they are making the story. And because I also have an interesting background, you know, my life was urban-rural migration and then rural-urban.
Yeah.
So it comes with cultural shock and lots of stories in there. And so I also share within the story a very funny story.
Could you tell
of a guy called Rukandema. Rukandema came from Busheng and goes to a bar.
Watch this.
And he sees people mentioning names and they're given drinks, you know. They're mentioning names of alcohol brands.
Okay.
And in his mind, he thinks that those are their names. And so he also goes to the counter and mentions his name. Says George Rukandema, and nobody gives him a drink. And so they tell me, you guys, you're the one going to act that part. But I'm not an actor. They said, no. So we go to a place called TLC. It's no longer there. It's now a parking. I think they sell cars there now.
Where?
On George Street.
Yeah, there's a Bond.
A Bond, yes. So that used to be a club. They used to call it TLC in 2003. And it was one of the biggest spaces in terms of reeling in people. And I think that was the first place I saw people doing like massage parlor. It was the first ever. It was owned by a guy called Dr. To.
Okay.
And so we tell Dr. To that we want to make your people laugh. And he says, what is that? He said, it's comedy. And you know, like any other Ugandan, they say, first sample me. So, yes, Phil Muswata had rallied his undergraduates at campus, the likes of Bujingo Hannington, Richard Tuwanje, Veronica Chiwanuka, Nina Katamba. There's a guy called Musa. I don't know where he's gone. They told me he became a pastor. And then there was another one called Farouk. And so he had rallied them to come and perform. All of us were new at this stuff. So we were 8 people performing for 3 people, Dr. To, his wife and child. That was the first time where the performers were more than the audience.
My goodness.
Yeah, so we performed for them, and the wife liked it and said, all right, you come. We have a Thursday. People don't normally come in on Thursday. It's our, you know, relaxed day. So they wanted us to reel in the numbers. So we go and perform. The first time we performed was like a scarecrow. You know? We came on stage, performed, and the people saw what we were doing and started leaving one by one. And the guy said, what's up? You're chasing my people. And so we had to use another approach. It's called invisible theater. Where you come as part of the revelers, as if you've also just come to have a good time. You sit with them, and then you create an argument. So people start wondering what's happening on that table. And then this table starts an argument with another table. So guys are like, wait, this is a movie. And as guys get comfortable, then you move to the stage and guys laugh. And so, remember, it was a free show. And so it became a public secret that there are crazy guys at TLC every time. Those guys are mad. So people would come to watch mad guys. And by then, phones were, you know, limited. So
the Alcatels, those were the days.
Yes, and so we used to use text messages more. So there was a place called True African on Spear House.
I remember that.
Yes. They were the only SMS providers at the time. And so the few people would come to us, he had phones. So to get their numbers and just send them a message. There's madness. Don't miss madness, you know? Organized confusion. and became a big deal. So Dr. Store saw an opportunity to make money. And starts charging people 1,000 to come and see the mad people. And by then, the 1,000 it was heavy. You know, those are the days when we still had green notes for 20K. 20K was still a green note. And so, the more he charged, the more people came. He put 2,000, then became 3,000. But he noticed that the space was small. So the other alternative was now to charge the performers and leave them to collect the money. And so
that's very entrepreneurial.
Then it opened our eyes to say, wait a minute, we can make money out of this. And then we chose to leave TLC. The space was small, and we went to TLC. At National Theatre. I beg your pardon. And so we started using the green room. But the green room also, now in 2006, that's when one of the private TVs starts in Uganda. And they were looking for local content. So they come and capture what we're doing, put it on TV, and call it barbed wire. So that's how. And so when it went on TV, Oh my goodness.
That show was very electric.
Yes.
I remember I was always glued to my father's TV for each the evening.
So that was the springboard of the comedy industry in terms of people and getting to understand it as a form of entertainment. And it became a big deal. Big deal.
Oh yeah.
The numbers became so huge. We went to the auditorium numbers burst, and so we had to do it in the green, in the open space.
The open space, yes.
Yeah, and we're charging 5,000
per head.
Yes, that was a lot of money.
Yeah, by then, yeah, by then.
Yeah, and so that's how sketch comedy came up. Now, how do I then dive into stand-up comedy? In 2004, they started a radio drama called Rock Point 256.
Okay.
And it was recorded in 5 languages and aired on 21 radio stations. It started with 13. Now, Theatre Factory was very strict. If you haven't rehearsed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can't perform on Thursday. Now, when Rock Point starts, they were looking for people who would adopt the English scripts to different languages. And I was privileged that I knew the 4 R's. 4 R's are Nyankwe, Ruchiga, Runyoro, Toro. Okay. And so they were looking for somebody who would adopt those, the English to that language. And there was this lady who used to come and watch our shows. And she told them, there's this guy who acts in Fun Factory. I see him speaking all those languages. But I don't know if he can write the language. So they invite me and say, can you write this? And I said, yeah. I mean, I went to school to study. When I left Kampala in my primary 4, I was only speaking Luganda and English. But when my parents passed on, that's when I started my pilgrimage to from urban to rural. And so I went to a school where English was sort of illegal because everything was taught in Runyankore. And so that take me to a Gomboroda called the Chitehulz, where I had to now learn
Gomboroda is county.
Yeah. There was a teacher called Banyogana. So I had to learn English, Runyankore, the vowels and consonants in Runyankore. Yana ye, niye, nisana u, nisu, yesu. So that training, I think that's why I like this song. God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. It seemed like a broken road, but it was leading me to a point that was going to prepare me for what I was to become in future.
Later on,
it's like a Joseph story. So that then helped me learn how to do it. And then, how do I get to know Rutoro Nyoro? You know, we have a background. Some of my relatives are from there, so I used to, because when my parents died, I was raised by a community. It was participatory approach.
But by then, I think that was the social structure of
if your uncle you spend Bushenyi here, if you can't, it says now you first go to Masindi. Once you're in Masindi, now you first go to Bunyangabu.
Go to Kasese.
Then I ended up in Kamuri. It's not basically
Is that why you're called Chimuli?
No. I think my parents predicted that maybe I would go there someday.
Yeah.
And so that was, so when I started writing Rock Point, I didn't have time for Theatre Factory.
Okay.
And so I was eliminated. But then there was a gentleman called Andrew Sekajugo. He liked what I was doing. I said, who is, my first nickname, by the way, was Rukandema. I said, who is this Rukandema man? And so I'd created an understandable number of people who liked what I was doing at the time. And so because the skits were they would take some time changing, the transition. There was some gaps in their time. So he said, why don't you come and tell a story while these guys are changing? You might not have time to us, but you can have a story. I said, yeah, I can do that. Remember, I was working with a newspaper.
Okay.
And also again around that time, I was called by a friend called Anwari Julius, who invited me to go to a radio station called Power FM to go and do a comic strip. And we called it Comedy Clinic.
I remember
It was very hilarious.
I remember
It was very crazy.
Yes.
And so the managing director at the time, called Hannington Muyenje, liked it and said, why don't we give these guys a show?
Okay.
And so they gave us a show at a weird time. It was a Saturday.
Okay.
And that show, I remember, it was so crazy. because it had no producer. We were the producers. We had no sponsors. It was just us. They said, "Here it's time. Go play with it."
Yeah.
And so we started doing crazy stuff, comedy. Then Nancy Kachunjura also came on board.
That was Nancy, eh?
Nancy comes on board on that Saturday show. I was doing, we had like Mbata Awards,
I know.
Juggle Your Brain. And so, before we knew it, it had skyrocketed in terms of listenership. Now, when the report came in, by then Ipsos was called Stedman, I think.
Yeah.
They came and said, by the way, there's this show of yours on Saturday. It's growing very fast.
That's right.
So they decided just to get the three of us and put us on the morning show.
For the daily, Monday to Friday.
Yes. So they put us, that's how we got to go on the morning show. And so the lady who was the program's director, called Belinda Obura, didn't like my name, Kenneth. Okay, she said it wasn't radio-like. It wasn't funky.
And I think she's still there.
That's Belinda Chamba. The Obura left.
Oh.
And so I said, which name should I use? So she gives me Pablo. I think she was reading a magazine or something. I said, okay, as long as the paycheck comes in. And so that's how I started using the name Pablo. So the people who used to listen to radio and come to watch us at the show, said, but you sound like Pablo. I said, yeah, I'm the guy who does the Pablo thing. They said, you're Pablo. I'm like, yo, I'm Kenneth Chimu. They said, no, you're Pablo. So that was the last funeral rite of the name Kenneth in the entertainment industry and the birth of Pablo. So that's how the name comes up.
Wow.
And then, because what I decided to do, I would get the news. I look out for the leading articles. And you know, Uganda is a roller coaster of stories.
That's true.
So every Thursday, I would give them a back-to-back, the lighter side of the serious story. Because I believe comedy is a funny way of being serious.
That's true.
And so I would tell the story about NSSF. Those were the days of the scandals, Temangalo. I came up with an acronym. I said NSS means Nadia Sente Sagara Fitina. The guys have took the money. So, and so it was like a press review. Oh my goodness. A comic press review.
I hear you.
And so, before we knew it, people are now interested in the link than the skits. And so Philip says, you know what, why don't you just put all these stories together and just give them one performance? Because they needed to put it on barbed wire as an independent segment. Yeah. And so that's how I started comedy. So it was just, diving in testing the depth of the ocean with both feet. You don't know how deep it is. You just dive into it. That's how we started. And fast forward to 2009, Multi-Choice under Mnet decided they were doing an Africa show. They would go to each country, the selected countries, to look for the funniest person. There was stand-up Zambia. Then they came to stand-up Uganda. So when they came to Uganda, they were looking for the funniest person. It was a competition. I was a little bit hesitant to join it, but they said, look here, it could be a springboard to your success.
That's true.
And so I get into it. That was the introduction of the likes of Alex Mohanji, Salvador, Mendo Habat Seguja, also known as Tichampamire, and Sebachije Emmanuel, were over 100 something people that came for the auditions, but they selected 20. And the competition went on until the final two. And by God's grace, I won that competition. And for me...
King of Comedy.
Yes, and they gave you the bragging rights as the King of Comedy with $10,000 US. That, for me, was now an introduction to international comedy.
That's right.
So I had now to get to understand the dynamics of structure, form, to get a more formal approach to comedy. And what helped me in 2007, I had attended a lab it's called in Sanders Theater Lab. It's in Salt Lake City, Utah, in the US. And when I was there, I got to meet writers, I got to meet comedians who had been trained in terms of education. They had done it as a course, not as a hobby in the US.
Just comedy?
Yes.
Wow.
And then when I came back to Uganda, there was a British Council public speaking training, of which it took a month, and so I was privileged also to be part of it. So that helped me in terms of understanding how theater works, how comedy works, comedy being a subset of one of the things they learn in theater. You know, there's comedy, tragedy, melodrama. And my first performance was in Lagos internationally. It was Comedy Club Live in Lagos. And they brought me on. My episode was the last.
Okay.
Yes. And
you're closing the show.
Yes. Yeah. And I remember performing in a kanzu. They thought it was a dress. There was this man wearing a dress. And so I had to, you know, talk about culture, Uganda, and they loved it. And then they invited me for Night of 1,000 Laughs.
That's Kenya.
Before Kenya, they said, this guy is hilarious. We need to invite him to Lagos. And then it was shifted to Kenya.
That was 2012?
2011. Now, surprisingly, I wasn't supposed to be on the performing list of Night of 1,000 Laughs. I was a last minute call because I remember the show happened on a Sunday. They called me on Friday. There's a lady called Brenda Zobo. She used to work in Uganda as a radio presenter. But when they looked at the list of performers, they had Nigerians, Kenyans, South African. There was no Ugandan or Tanzanian because they wanted something that appeals to East Africa.
East Africa. And
Tanzania, they didn't have. So they told them that there's this some weird guy in Uganda. He's crazy. You need to watch this guy.
Okay.
And so they called me on Friday. They tell me the show is on Sunday. I say, but I have no contract. I have no understanding. Brenda tells me, you're my guy. She was my friend. So trust me, I have your back on this.
Okay.
So the next day, Saturday, all the flights were full apart from the evening KQ. So I go, they tell me that all the flights were on Saturday were full. And so I travel on the day of the performance.
On that very day?
On Sunday.
That's Sunday.
So you're landing at the airport, you're going straight to
the stage.
Yeah, going for orientation, take you around, see. And I was a little bit, confused. And to make matters worse, because I was the underdog, you're the one who starts. They put you among, the starters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a band comes on, performs, but the Kenyans felt Eric Omondi was actually the first one to just warm up before his performance. And so they throw me there as my first act.
That was throwing you in the deep.
Yes. But I always believe in opportunity knocks once.
That's true.
So when I came on, I gave it my...
I remember you really drove that crowd. I've watched that YouTube video, I think, over 10 times.
Yeah, so I did the first performance I did that night is never shown. They never showed it. And so after my performance, they loved it.
Oh, wow.
Then I was done. Now, the performance that people get to watch when I come saying, hey, it is happening again. That was my second performance. And how do I get to perform the second time? The guy who was performing from South Africa died on stage. When we talk about dying on stages, it's a term meaning that you're not funny.
I thought the guy just kicked the bucket.
When you're not funny, when the jokes are more annoying than entertaining. And so... And the Kenyans have no ruth in them. They are ruthless.
They are ruthless, yeah.
So they say, toka. So now they needed
something.
Another person they would throw there. And so they said, you throw back this Ugandan, because they were saving the Nigerians to come in last. The guy told me, Uganda, do you have some more time? I said, that's not a problem. So if you watch that video very well, I was trying to, I used to have this phrase of happiness is killing me. It was a way of motivating myself. Speak to yourself.
And your signature laughter.
Yes.
You have to give us that laughter today.
So I come on stage as walking down saying, it is happening again. A black man song. Feeling, what a wonderful feeling. And then I come and tell them I bring you greetings from my wife. Yeah, every time something gets wrong, she says Jesus is the answer. They said, if Jesus is the answer, what is the question? And that triggered laughs.
Yeah.
So it kind of covered what other people, what the South African had been through.
What they did, man.
Yes. And so I took them on a roller coaster. I was just feeding them from my palms, you know,
giving
a joke at a time.
Yeah. How music is composed, I remember.
Yes. Because my opening, I was given, I think, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But this time they said, just go enjoy yourself. Wow. So once I was done and I went backstage, there's a CNN reporter who had come to cover the event. He said, I need to talk to this guy. So my first performance internationally gets me an international feature on CNN.
Wow. You know, I have let you talk because we really I needed that kind of, I needed also to understand where you're coming from, what has been the context of your journey. And man, there's too much and I want to touch everything, but we're running out of time for this segment. We'll be back in the other segment and then touch on more of these things. Great. But I hope you guys who are watching at home, you're enjoying and you're getting to know this amazing talent and whose content you enjoy. This is Let's Talk Creatives, and as we continue doing these conversations, kindly, if you happen to be on our socials, just type a bit of the questions, comment, like, and subscribe to the channels. And yeah, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back in the second segment. Peace.
Looking for the Central Police Station in Uganda. And I asked him, where's the Central Police Station? He said, looking for Central Police Station. Now what you do, you go left, right? And then turn left, right? Turn right, right? And then you turn left, right? And then you turn right, right? I said, right. That shows how Kenyan the man is. Actually, his name is an acronym. Obama stands for Original Black African Managing America.
All right, welcome back, and I hope you enjoyed that informative nugget in history concerning the topic of discussion today. This is Let's Talk Creatives, and I'm your host, Matthias.K, aka Matt.K, and I am with Pablo, known as Kenneth Muli. Praise God. Yeah, so we've had quite an impactful segment, the first segment, and there was a lot of history. There's a lot of information and many things went off in my head because I was young during those days, but I never understood how things came to be. However, I got inspired along the way. And this I have to tell you, Mr. Pablo, you have done a lot to inspire me as a person.
I'm about to hear that.
A lot. Because I remember I used to listen to you over the radio on that morning show on Power. Yeah? And you used to, actually one of the tongue twisters that I used in one of the shows, the episodes, was that thing of, blessed make it, take it.
In Uganda. This is just truly Pablo Bangabe Oko. The only Muchiga from I like it. Not about you by Matthias, don't break him, bless him, make him, love him.
Don't break it.
Don't mess it, don't break it.
Oh my goodness. I listened to that thing and I think for me it sparked interest.
Yeah, I used it always to, because remember I used to come on the show after prayer. So people are spiritually filled. So you need now to loosen up to, come on, hey, let's first come back to us. And so I would do that every morning.
Man,
signature tune.
That thing blessed me a lot. And I started thinking, should I really go into this space? Actually, it also sparked off my love for poetry. From there, I started picking on reads, literature, and
I love poetry.
Yeah, and I've done well. Like at the beginning of the show, you heard what I did.
Sure.
What do you think?
I like the end rhymes,
But yeah, that was a very blessed opportunity for me to enter into this space. And I've also tried to perform. I've tried in school, in high school when I was in London College and things like that. But I have not been so much out into that space because I love the gospel.
You can use that space for the gospel.
Yeah, and I hope I am doing it right now. But I've come to also understand that there is a process that a person undertakes to create the pieces and the content that people out there love. And in all that history, you said that you went to the US and there you had a bit of training, the British thing that happened here you talked about, and that was a stage performance.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So when you're writing for you, how do you create your pieces? Like, do you follow a pattern? Do events within your life inspire them? Then, like, how do you sit with your head and you start to say, let me now construct it this way, I'll take it this way? And how does that happen for you?
That's a good question. You know, comedy is a reflection of society. You're just looking at everyday things that make people laugh, knowingly or unknowingly, you know. And so when I am preparing for a set, I first make sure that I observe. I observe, and I make sure that I know my target audience. Who am I going to tell these jokes? Are they Ugandans? Are they non-Ugandans? What class are they? Are they middle class? Are they upper class? Are they our everyday people? Are they students? And so then that helps me understand how I'm going to bake the cake. Yeah, and then also I look at what is trending, what is relevant, what do people want to hear, what is it that they want to talk about but they can't talk about, you know.
Yeah.
And how then do you put all that together without annoying or invading somebody's privacy?
That's right.
So you ask yourself a number of questions. So we sit down, the three of us, me, myself, and I.
I hear you.
And then we have a conversation.
It's a committee meeting.
Yeah, yeah. So Kenneth Chimuli takes over and bakes the stories for Pablo.
Okay.
Yeah. Then Pablo does the execution. Yeah, and so that's what I do. I listen, I look at an average Ugandan day. For example, if you've noticed, the lifespan of a Ugandan story is not more than 96 hours. After 96 hours, people have moved on. Something else has come
I remember in COVID, that happened.
Yes. I mean, you're still there wondering, hey, NSSF, they have removed they're going to pay people who are 45 years. Hey, 45 years. What has the problem? Well, NSF boy has gone. Where has he gone? Hey, why are you still there? Nabanja. What has happened to Nabanja? Why are you still on Nabanja? What has happened? Yeah, bad black. Now what is it? Why are you bad? Kosati. What Kosati? There's a battle of so and so. Yeah. Nobody remembers what happened the other time. Why are you still there? Hey, speaker has died. Hey, speaker, what is dead? Before you know it,
96 hours.
96. Look, so you look at. And you ask yourself, why? Why? You know, like you're like the bubble monarchy.
Oh my
you remember everything
goodness.
and forget everything. Yeah. So you have to be able to understand. You look at what is trending, what story is there, because what is happening today. Believe you me, I think right now I don't know what is trending now in terms of nationwide. Maybe they are talking about. We are still talking about Juma Waswa Barunywa.
G70.
I was still in Barunywa. They said tenge. Now Barunywa first go aside tenge. There's like a wave, we move like a wave, Oh, wow. And people successfully forget.
So that is what you use to create.
Yes. So you have to understand how fast things are changing. How are you relevant? And one of the things I learned when I went to it's called Lincoln Center Theater. One of our mentors said, you need to know when to step back. Need to know when to step back, watch, plan, and then take 2 steps further.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a point in like maybe 4 years ago, I realized that I was going too fast in terms of how things were going, and then you're exposing yourself more.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes which is dangerous. So you need to learn how to first step back, retreat, then see what do people say if you're not around. Will people miss you or not? Yeah,
Scarcity
are you still relevant to the market?
Scarcity creates demand.
Yes. And then you say, how then do you reinvent yourself? Because there are people who are watching you. You become a trend center. You copy and paste. People see what you're doing is what they want to. So now that you realize that that's where you are, then you pull back and reinvent yourself. So that's why I said, okay, let's first now enter into theater. That's how we did Tevere Arts Foundation, you know, coming up to mentor emerging artists.
Yes.
It's very important to mentor. Because whether you like it or not, the best dancer also has to leave the stage.
That's true.
But who have you left on the stage? You know? And people talk about competition, but may I look at it as preparation.
Competition is preparation.
Yes. So it's very important for us to mentor others to come on stage. Because whether you like it or not, other people are going to come on stage and shine.
That's right.
But you will be judged by their star. What role did you play in their lives? Did you help them? You know? So if you're to remain relevant, you have to be in their lives such that in future they say, when I was starting, Pablo helped me.
In that regard, just would ask you to give us like some 2 minutes.
Yes.
And be relevant to someone watching us in their sitting rooms, on their screens. Pull off something, a comedy something.
Oh, well. Okay, I think for me, in terms of those who want to be comedians or who just want to laugh.
Yes, who just want to laugh. Because first and foremost, I'm looking at Christians.
Yeah.
Christian comedy has been tight.
Yes.
You know, it's not been so out there, and people go very slow about it.
Yeah, the thing about Christian comedy.
And also, that's why most of the people are scared of, can I really venture into this space? And that's why we don't have a lot of Christian comedians.
I think Christian comedy is, I can say, locked.
And as you're saying that, we have a challenge. Locked.
This one, my son will help me. I take for him at home. It's for my son. This one for my son.
Yes, you're saying locked. Because if you could solve it, before you can take it to your son.
Why should I solve problems? That's why in mathematics, I don't like mathematics. It has figures. You have to figure out things. I have to figure out things. This is math. Playing around with this thing. You see, I'm almost there. So at least I've got this one. Can I bite?
I know.
Hey, I'm not allowed to bite.
But don't forget the conversation we are in.
Oh, I have to plant 2 trees with one seed. Okay, you see, Christianity, why Christian comedy is hard is it's on a thin, you're between a hard rock and a harder rock. Why? First of all, you don't want to be blasphemous.
That's right.
You don't want to rub the Christian the wrong way, despite how funny and righteous. Then there's also a scripture in the verse which alludes to joking as being
cost jesting.
Now, as a person who wants to take that path, you have to be very, very careful and make sure that you're not saying things that will rub the believers the wrong way.
The wrong way, yeah.
So what you normally have to do is look at, how do I get what is in the Christian faith, bring it on my grid, and then align it to
scripture,
doctrine. Yes. For example, people say that Samson was the strongest man. I don't think so. Samson wasn't. According to me, I don't think Samson was the strongest man. The strongest man for me was Jacob.
Okay.
Jacob was the strongest man in the Bible. Why? Jacob, when he was raised by his mom, he was a mommy's boy.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
He was just there preparing beans. That's why I don't like beans. Esau lost his rights over beans. Beans. Let me tell you, I come from a family where we are I think in our family we have only 3 vegetarians. Okay. And they also eat meat. So beans. One time I went with my grandmother to a party. We went to a party and they had prepared only what? The couple was celebrating 20 years in marriage and they were vegetarian. So they had prepared only vegetables. spinach, cabbage,
Mamaranthus.
cucumber. Who eats cucumber at a wedding? So while we were walking into the space, my grandmother held my hand and said, Pablo, telling Yamawano, there's no meat. That's how close we are to meat. You have a sixth sense of meat. And I could tell she was concerned. Her legs were fellowshipping, you know. Said, then said, symptoms persisted. Said, you escort me to the bathroom. I thought we were going to the bathroom. But you know the way the village setting is. Yeah. When you're going to the bathroom, there's a kitchen first. Yeah. So as we were passing the kitchen, she made a 360 turn. Entered the kitchen. And I heard sounds of danger. Then she came out with the petals of spinach, cabbage, said, we go home. As we are going home, the MC made the worst mistake. Said, Rhoda, my grandmother, you pray for us before, so that we can, for this function to start. She got the mic. First, Papu, is it on? She started, said, now, Mr. Amos and Edsa, thank you for not allowing sin to interfere with your marriage. I hate sin, though I hate vegetables. Vegetables are the cause of all problems in this world. Look at Adam and Eve. What did they eat? An apple. What is an apple? Is it meat? When Abel and Cain had a sacrifice, what did God accept? The meat. God accepted the meat. If God can refuse vegetables, who are we? Who are we to accept this? Look at Abraham when he was going to sacrifice his son. God gave him an alternative. He gave him a lamb. You think God didn't have spinach? You think God didn't have beans? Huh? Why? Look at the children of Israel when they were in the desert. God gave them quills. What are quills? You think God didn't have peace? You think God didn't have peace? Now everybody was in agreement. Yes. No vegetables. Look at Esau. Esau lost his rights over beans. You see, you're going to lose your life over vegetables and beans. Just to know all the domestic edible animals were sentenced to death, and we sang to Mute. Oh my God. So what I've just done is the performance. Oh wow. That's a comedy performance that has a religious approach to it. Oh wow.
I'd really never seen it that way. So it's also my first time. And so lovely.
I'm talking about I'm talking about things that are in the Bible.
Yes.
But I have brought them to my creed and aligned them to interest what my thoughts are.
You've cracked my rib.
For example, I believe Adam was a black man.
Okay.
Look at the way Adam answers questions. Typical African. God asks Adam, where are you? Question that needs a location as an answer. What does Adam answer? I am naked. How are the two related? How are the two related? You ask Pablo, where are you? So you just have to look at the things that are in there and align them to
the doctrine.
Yes.
Yeah, and I also see you could tell us a line around Elijah and the prophets of Baal.
Yeah, you
remember that story.
Let me tell you, that man was a Muzungu. The people who I know in the Bible who were Bazungu, people who don't fear danger, they were Bazungu.
Fear danger.
Yes. Elijah, Moses. Moses saw a burning bush and walked to it. Who does that? Moreover, it wasn't even consumed. I think he was like, wow, that looks awesome. I go check it out. Pablo, let me tell you, I see that burning bush. I will run. Not with the witchcraft we have in Africa. I will run. Moses was a Mzungu. He had the courtesy to ask God questions. Who does that? You have ever seen an African asking the boss questions? Yeah. It's Mzungu asks Mzungu a question. You fire Mzungu. Why firing me? Where's my contract? I mean, I got a word. Yeah, I'm calling my lawyer. You fire an African. They will go.
That's right.
Yes. Moses wasn't a coward. God told him, throw down the stick.
And he turned into a snake.
Then God told Moses,
take it by the tail.
Let me tell you, Pablo. God tells Pablo, throw down the stick. I throw it. It becomes a snake. God tells me, Pablo, pick. I say, you know what, God? Let that one go. We have a whole forest. You can get another stick
and make it your stuff.
So basically, that's quoted from the Bible that you're bringing to our perspective, our understanding. Because you don't want to be blasphemous. You don't want.
Kindly also speak to someone who really would want to get into that space, you know. Like, we need to see more Christian comedy coming up, and people have the scriptures, but the best they are doing with it, of course, is what they are called to do with it. Yes,
Yes.
which is good, but then how do you again entice a world that has been enticed by the world? You know?
That's a very good question. You know, one of the things that I've learned along the way is one, you have to be very patient. If you're a Christian comedian, if you want quick success, and as a Christian comedian,
Patient.
that's not your space.
Okay.
You have to be very patient because our kind of audience is very sensitive. And internationally, if you look internationally, there are very few stand-up Christian comedians. And that speaks volumes about the space.
That's true.
And then also the audience. There are very many Christians who want to watch comedy. But in Uganda, as a case study, comedy has been vulgarized, you know, and so people have cold feet when they are coming for comedy. Even if you tell them that it's a Christian comedy, they're a little bit skeptical. They want to first, you know, let somebody taste the pudding for us before we can come and eat it.
And that's the reason we are having Let's Talk Creatives.
Yes.
Because we want to bring this space out there and for people to really see that there is fun in God.
Yes. I'll tell you, for example, in 2015, I did a show called Laugh for Heaven's Sake.
Oh, yes.
And all the jokes were from the scripture. But 70% of the people who came were non-Christians.
Wow.
And they told me, Pablo, we didn't know that you can even have, others said,
wow.
So others were saying, maybe you start a church. I was like, wait a minute. So in my mind, I was like,
it will be a laughing church.
Yeah. In my head, I was like, I did this so that I could reel in the church people, believers. But ironically, it's the non-believers who have come. So that showed me that they are the ones who are aligned to it.
That's true.
But we can change that narrative. It's not too late. We can change that narrative if we are persistent, if we have partnerships, if we have spaces. We then have a friend called Laptop and OJ.
Okay.
We decided to do a caravan to go from different church doing different comedies. But then churches are structured differently.
That's true.
They have their own intentions. They'll ask you, why do you want to do comedy in our church? It seems you want to take our people to the world. Others are saying, okay, is it going to be for paying or it's for free? You say it's for free because we knew they're not going to pay it. The Bible is clear. Jesus paid it all. But then they say, hey, but you have to collect money. Say, okay, you collect money, no problem. Then they say, you look weird. They say, what is your agenda? Then they say, okay, let's collect money. They say, our church events, we don't collect money. So you find that for you to be accepted also in the church, because now there are fellowships, there are the mainstream church, then there's an invisible sense of competition, or this one doesn't believe in the other one's doctrine. So you wonder, where does the rubber meet the road?
I hear you.
So there are a couple of challenges there, but me, I believe that there's always a way.
Wow. There is always a way. And, you know, we're running out of time, and there is so much. Pablo, if we asked you to come back sometime, would you honor us?
Yeah, I mean, I passed exams by retake.
Well, I do believe that we'll have you again, because there is so much I feel we need to touch in this space, and comedy can be a tool of evangelism, you know. People are bored. That's why they are alluding to all social media platforms, TikTok, because you find someone on their phone just laughing, and he's a Christian, and you're like, why aren't you reading your Bible?
Absolutely. I do agree with you. If you look at a person like Joel Osteen, every time he starts with someone, starts with a joke. With humor is a therapy. It lightens up your mind. It's also, doctors will tell you that it takes less muscles to smile than to frown. And humor helps a message be delivered, because you remember the punchline, you remember the joke.
Wow. Today, this is our punchline, dear viewers. We've come to the end of this show. However, we have a Riddle Me session. In this Riddle Me session, we try to juggle your minds around, make you think. And last week we had a riddle which went like, if you also can answer it before I answer it, it went like, what doesn't move while it lives, but moves widely when it dies?
Dead skin.
Can you support that?
What moves widely?
What doesn't move while it lives, but when it dies, it moves widely.
I think that was Jesus. When Jesus was alive, people didn't take things serious. Then when he died, that's when they remembered, hey, the man has laid his life down for us. But I know I'm wrong.
Well, the answer to last week's riddle was a tree. Yeah. It's just a tree. When it's living, it's just in one place. But when you cut it down,
a coffin.
Okay, today's riddle is, my goodness, that's what came to your mind at first.
Died twice.
Today's riddle is, what's the difference between a jeweler and a jailer? What's the difference between a jeweler and a jailer? Can you try it?
Yeah, a jailer is the one who looks after people in the prison. Yeah.
And a jeweler?
A jeweler makes jewels.
Okay, you are in the field. You've not yet scored. Yeah, okay. But that will be for next episode. Well, thank you for tuning in. If you happen to be on our social media platforms, kindly like our pages and comment. Also, let us know that you're watching Manifest TV. We are here to give you every creativity in all activity, visiting the spaces, inviting the guests and the people whose content you love. This is Let's Talk Creatives, artistry beyond boundaries. Until next time, see you and God bless.
Manifest TV, Christ revealed.